3 days ago, Tikasuk, you were sitting at a loom, weaving a blanket. The yellow thread saffron-colored, the black and the red, even the green, all coming together. Your fingers are very nimble, and they belie the strength that you possess within you. Anpaytoo comes and sits next to you, her face flushed with excitement.
Ah, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Does not the sun shine so beautifully on the frost?
Yes, it does. That's why I came out here. It's much more peaceful. You look troubled.
No. No, troubled I am far from it. Although I worry that my father will not understand.
What is the matter? You can tell me. And she would kind of sit back now, her full attention away from the lumen towards her friend.
Along the river grow the bushes with the berries. And as I walked there yesterday, I heard a sound of a flute, or perhaps wind, and then a voice. A brave I'd never seen before. Most kind, but with eyes bright, like sun on frost, like you've never seen before. He spoke to me. I am old enough now. I wish to be his wife. Father had spoken of one of the others, but it is my choice.
Wow.
Oh, Tikasuk, you should meet him.
Which tribe is he from? There are not that many for many paces.
He said he was mountain tribe, but not quite mountain. It is no matter for me.
Well, you always have been the adventurous one, but I would encourage you to just at least talk to your father. He seems like a reasonable man. Maybe if you had introduced him, he would change his mind.
Perhaps.
But I would very much like to meet him. He seems good for you. I trust you.
Yes, he says that when the moon is full, then he will come down the mountain, and everyone will meet him. And we can be together.
It seems kind of odd. Why the moon? Why must it be full?
Perhaps he reveres Grandmother Moon. I do not know. I did not ask.
Well, please, I do encourage you to talk to your father.
I will. But oh, Tikasuk, you should see him. You should hear him, his voice. There's something about him that's unlike anyone I've met. He's powerful.
I've heard that's how love can convince someone. Everything about the others amazing.
Yes, I will see him, I think, in a few more days. He told me to return. And then we can come down the mountain together.
And she just nods in just very genuine um, excitement and, pleased. And have you talked to Waya? Is he going to bless you before you leave?
I'm certain he will. Waya and I have always gotten along.
Well, that seems great. I am very happy for you, friend.
Oh, your work is looking most lovely.
And she kind of turns back to it and she kind of furrows her brow and not as good as mother's, but I'm hoping it will do. Maybe I will make you something for your
That,
big ceremony.
that would please me greatly.
Very well. She just kind of smiles.
Work well, Tikasuk. May the sun shine brightly upon you.
You as well.
2 days ago, Kihakita, you are in the woods. You are stalking, hunting, tracking. The hoof prints are so light that someone younger or with poorer eyesight might miss them. But you know where the stag is headed. You're crouched low, and you draw back your bow, and your arrow flies true. The deer falls. But there's a noise. You are not alone. You turn and see a great wolf. 2 of them. They whine at you.
Kiha Kita lowers himself, setting the bow down to the ground. He spreads his legs, taking a wider stance, but lowers himself still. Now his hands are on the ground, making sure to not seem threatening. He yips back at them, arr, arr! Skirts sideways, looking around. Did he miss something? Were there other trails? Was he near a den? He is cautious and wary. But he will do as best he can to make sure he does not offend or cause them to agitate. And he's going to look around. He's trying to see where they came from. How did he miss them?
They look as though they are coming down the mountain. It's a pair. You see no sign of cubs, no sign of den, no extra tracks that would tip you off that this is where they've made their home. But in spite of your efforts, they're uneasy. The hackles on their backs don't quite lay flat, and the tails are stiff.
He's going to lower himself still further and now back away slowly towards the fallen stag, his kill. But he will skirt around it so that he is on the opposite side of where they are. He observes them, trying to best determine if they are hungry. Are their ribs showing through their fur? What season is it? Have they had time to hunt?
It is the peak of winter, and these animals seem sleek. You know yourself that there is ample hunting. Rabbits, deer, foxes. Plenty to be had. These animals seem well fed. One of them steps forward slightly, then back, then forward again. Hmm.
Kiha kita will move again, and now he will start picking up leaves, crushing them in his hands. He will grab a small medicine bag at his waist, emptying some powdered contents into it. And if given the chance and enough time, he will begin to paw, kind of pulling down on one side, dancing to another. He's going to show them his back. He's going to roll to his side. And mechanically, if possible, he will attempt to speak with animals.
Absolutely. The herbs in your hand seep into your skin, and you feel yourself connect with your spirit wolf. And as you look back to the male wolf which has stepped forward, you see a new clarity in his eyes.
Again, rolling on his side, stepping kind of lively now, trying to show energetic qualities. Almost a youthful sort of trot to his step as he moves closer, but warily. He will attempt to ask them why they are here, what they mean of him.
The tail lifts high. Brother Wolf. Brother Wolf. Yes, Wolf. Down. Down we go. Away. Down.
How far down? How far away?
The song. The noise. My ears. My bones. My spirit. It sits ill. Elder Brother Mountain is unhappy. Go down the mountain, Brother Wolf.
He will approach them slower, allowing them to scent, not moving too quickly. And he will offer them by stepping to the opposite side again of the kill, if they wish to take from the choicest pieces of haunch before he dresses the game. And he will warn them of the village that he comes from, to stay clear of it as well. Go. Be safe. Eat. What do you flee? Hoping that he has caused them to relax enough to perhaps share more.
Not Brother Wolf, not bear. Man but not man. Wind but not wind. Cold. Not winter but winter. Down we go. Go down, Brother Wolf.
He's going to, again, in his medicine bag, pull out a few things. And this time, he takes some crushed findings from the forest, and he smells them, inhales from them deeply, and then sprinkles them again, and looks to the sky, looks to the clouds, And using druidcraft, he's going to attempt to tell the weather for the next day. Is there a storm coming? As this is what they are fearing.
It is clear. You see the sky, you read the signs. The stars will be bright.
Then there is something else. Eat, brother. Eat, sister. And then go down. I will find mine. I will tell them. But we will not go down. We are proud. We will stay. Thank you.
You see the wolves loping easily through the snow, their huge paws barely making a dent, and then they're gone. One day ago, Tahatan, you are sitting in the lodge, and Chief Akaraho is next to you. The lines on his face are deeper than ever. His eyes are worried. Tahatan. Do not have daughters. He begins to put tobacco into a pipe with a clay bowl, carefully packing it in with his thumb as he sits next to you. Anpaytoo worries me. She is like a bird. She flits from place to place. She has never been one to stay home. And now she speaks to me of a man of our tribe whom I have never met. There is no such man. Tahatan, we have met everyone. Haven't we? I do not like it. And I don't like a lot of things. Don't tell me that. You've known me too long. While Tahtan gathers his thoughts due to technical difficulties. Amarok, your wife rocks back and forth, her fingers clutching a small wooden wolf. Her tears are endless, and it seems that your bed is always damp with them. The son she bore died less than a moon ago, and her grief is a mountain compared to yours. Your words can bring no comfort. As she keens and wails, I...
Exhausted, face drawn and eyes wan, he'll try to comfort her as he has futilely these past days. He'll go to like whisper her name like a rasp to his voice. Shaime, but like as she like racks again from another like sobs, kind of recoils his touch at the last minute.
Oh, my son. What winter chill.
Amaruk clenches his jaws, his eyes glazed with tears, but he doesn't spill any as Shymare does. His like grief turns inward to like latent wrath, like a man cursing the worlds, but without words. And he'll just put like a big hand around her shoulder and try and pull her in close, but it doesn't like feel like an embrace, and it doesn't feel like he's comforting her. And this is how it's felt for weeks.
Even as she's pulled close, it sets off a fresh set of wails, another waterfall of tears. Amarak, you know that when the ice begins to thaw, when the snow begins to melt, you can leave the lodge, you can go out, protect the borders, and your rage, your frustration, your anger at everything can be put to use. But here, you can do nothing.
Yeah, it's like the medicine man's smoke tent or like the sweat lodge. It's just like this pervasive sauna of grief. He's just trapped, even though like it's just like a light hide curtain that could like see him out of this place, but like he's trapped in another way. And will just like sit silent, vicarious, like vigil with her, looking at the wolf he'd carved in her hands.
You hear a commotion outside. Raised voices.
He's already halfway across the dirt-packed floor before he turns to like back to her, and he's just like waiting for like some what's the word? like edification to leave or not, even though it's not forthcoming. I imagine she just drools and sobs.
Her eyes are unseeing. She notices nothing but her grief. Tahatan, you are standing next to the chief, Akaraho. He's gathering people. But you remember his worry from yesterday. The conversation you had. I do not like it, old friend.
You're often one given to worry, but usually not unduly.
Is it a father's pride?
I would not know.
I would see Anpaytoo here, among our people, as her sisters are. Most of them. I do not like this news of a man I have not met. And she is late. She was due back at sunset, and it is well past. I am fearful, Tahatan.
You know, old friend, if there's anything you need of me, I will do it. I owe you that much.
We owe each other much. But you know that Anpaytoo is she is special to me, much like her mother. Would you seek her for me, if I asked it, old friend?
I would. Of course I would.
I will speak to Waya and see if he has any insight. My spirit is troubled. I fear nothing good will come of it. Lalawethika. It is night. Sleep has not found you. And so you have stepped outside where the cold air greets you. And the moon, nearly full, shines down. You sit and close your eyes, leaning against the trunk of a tree, an evergreen, branches above obscuring the stars. And you begin to hear whispers. First one, two, a dozen, 100. You cannot sort them out. They all begin to grow louder and louder, each one striving to be heard. They will overwhelm you.
Every night I have come out here, under the same tree as sleep eludes me, as the grandmother moon grows closer to full. The whispered voices on the wind have grown more and more numerous, becoming overwhelmed each time. So overwhelmed that I can't even chant or pray, as if I am completely enshrouded by the spirits that flit between the veil of light and darkness. The ones that normally I have some sort of communion with. But they've grown restless. The spirits of the mountain, the spirits of the trees, the very spirits of the air, all seem to be colliding. And all I can do under the tree is reaching around, trying desperately to pluck at spirits that may be more benevolent, while at the same time trying to push away the spirits that have more malevolence. But now, as Grandmother Moon grows closer to full, I'm merely trying to hold back, and anybody that might see me crouched under that evergreen tree would see a shrunken form, more shrunken than usual, seeming to be under some sort of weight and with no other outlet. I weep.
The tears freeze as they fall from your cheek. And as they drop into the snow, they seem to silence the noises until one voice speaks and you hear it. Wintermaker. Wintermaker.
I imagine as the voice whispers, this one voice now whispers Wintermaker. After the second time, and for however many more times that voice says it, I too would whisper Wintermaker. Wintermaker. And would struggle to find my strength again. Feeling the cold, I've come out, as every night, in my thinner deerskin, no moccasins upon my feet, no blanket over my shoulders. And now I feel the biting cold of the mountain air. But it seems to cut even deeper into my bones with those whispered words of Wintermaker. And I know that I need to find Wayu and Akaraho.
The weight of the whisper pushes you into the snow. You see flashes in your mind. They are too fast for you to understand. No. You breathe. And one stands out. You see Anpaytoo. You see her falling forward onto a blade of ice. You see a river of blood that freezes, and freezes with it the heart of the world. And winter stays.
I stay prostrated under the force of whatever spirits are pressing me into the ground. Perhaps even if it does let up, or when it does let up, even a bit longer. Trying to lock that vision in my mind's eye, trying to understand it so that I can relay it to whom I need to.
The sky grows light as you lie in the snow, and you begin to hear voices, a commotion. It seems the chief is calling people together.
Tenuously, I try to rise. My muscles are stiff. I'm chilled to the bone, to the point, I imagine, even almost to that point where I can't even shiver anymore. I will return to my shelter, retrieve my moccasins, my heavier deerskins, my blanket. But quickly, because if the chief is summoning, I need to be there.
Chief Akaraho is standing with Tahatan at his side. You all find yourselves, the rest of you, among your people, waiting, wondering what this could be. My people, Anpaytoo has not returned. Tahatan has offered to seek her. Are there any who would accompany him?
I will go. I will take the trail with Tahatan.
Amarak, you are brave and loyal. May your feet be swift.
You hear a small voice pipe up from somewhere in the midst of the gathered tribe. Anpaytoo was a dear friend. I will go as well.
Tikasuk, you are strong. You know her well. May your heart be true.
She just kind of nods, this just very, very worried look on her face.
I will go as well. Kita stands. The great wolves, they are upset. Something in the mountains. Something is not right.
Kita, you are fierce. May your spirit wolf be your guide.
I must go. It is more than the spirits, the wolves, or anything in the chill air that is at discomfort. There are words whispered on the wind. Grandmother Moon, the stars in the sky, this very mountain, the entire world upon which we reside whispers to me. And it has told me things this night. And I turn to Chief Karaho. I saw in my vision Anpaytoo, and the name that was whispered in the wind was Wintermaker.
Waya, on the other side of the chief, starts when you say that. No. It cannot be.
And yet it is.
You see the chief, a wise man, a strong man, but his face is gaunt with the worry. Lalawethika, you are wise. Bring my daughter home.
I bow my head momentarily. The spirits that whisper these words in the wind are speaking what they desire. But I believe that we can alter their will. As I look around at the others who have volunteered, we will bring Anpaytoo back to you.
Go. Creator guide your steps. Go. And we're going to take a bio break right there. So everybody, get your drinks. We'll be back in 5.
All right.
Yes, and your smokes. You guys are fun to run for.
I don't know if you saw my comment in the YouTube chat. I have a fan blowing on me, making me cold right now. It was warm when I came out here, but I'm like, I'm a little, like, just a little chilly. I'm like, I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
Get
Why
that
not?
method acting winter weather feel.
Jacob,
I won't do that this winter.
Jake, I'm getting some serious beard envy here. How are you?
You should.
I can't even see all of it. There's just
I constantly have to adjust my camera to get the whole beard in there.
it's like when I hang out with Dave Hubble, same thing. And Taylor, you're doing an amazing job. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'm glad you guys are playing it. You're nailing it so far. This is the very first playtest of Second World. I should probably say that. Hi, if you're watching this video, this is the first ever playtest of Second World. It is a homebrew setting that has been churning around in my head for a long time, and I've done little bits of work on it. We're using D&D 5e as the base, and I've got some archetype classes that everybody... I think we're actually getting all of the archetypes because there's 5 of you. And we're getting all the archetypes played. We've got Chex playing a Ranger Deerstalker as Tatan. Got Cameron, I believe you were playing the Druid... I've forgotten the name of it now. You're playing the Druid. Let's see. Megan, you are doing the Barbarian Path of the Cougar as Tikasuk. Jake, you are doing the Cleric Spirit Talker, Laloethica. And Nico is doing the Fighter Brave as Amaruk.
It is the Circle of Shapeshifters.
Circle of Shapeshifters, that's the one. And that's Kihakita. And in case anyone watching has not picked up on the fact that this is inspired by Native American lore and culture, it very much is. I have always had a fondness and a respect for them, and I find them just absolutely beautiful. And I wanted to try and capture that in a setting. So here we are, the first ever playtest. And I got this fun group of players who are doing stellar. Now let's see if they survive all the dice rolling that's still to come.
What? We rolled dice? Huh?
Eventually. We'll get there.
No, this is a welcome reprieve from my normal table games. It's almost all dice rolling and action. This is over an hour and no dice. It's very, very different and refreshing.
Yeah, I don't run a lot of games on this channel because I'm a perpetual player. I spend most of my time on Rob Coletta's channel, Performance Check, and on Lloyd's channel, Jarl DM. And there have been games on both of those channels where we've never rolled a dice for entire sessions. Maybe like 2 dice over 2 or 3 sessions, but that is apparently my DM style as well, so. All right, I think we are all back. So let's get back to it. You all gather your deerskin and your rabbit fur-lined moccasins and your snowshoes and your weapons. You are given herbs and you are given war paint. Waya comes to each of you and very carefully applies this white paint across your faces, across your arms, your chest. Slightly different. 2 stripes, 3, a handprint. You can feel it seeping into your skin. You feel the strength it gives you, the protection, the white paint made from the chalk of the bluffs. It will make you stronger. And so you set out. Where do you go?
Kiha Kita will probably watch and wait for Tahanta, knowing that he is superior in long distance travel, that Kiha Kita is most accustomed to hunting and keeping the area around the village safe. He does not range far, and so he will bow and sort of give the lead to the deer stalker.
So, with the technical issues I had, I don't know if I missed anything relevant, so I apologise for that.
I think you caught the gist of most everything. Based on when you left and came back. You're all heading up the mountain.
Yep.
Presumably.
And there's a stream nearby, which no doubt flows down from the mountain. So Tahatan will make towards the stream, using it as a guideline, a path.
You make your way, and as you come along the edge of the stream, roll me survival or perception. Anyone else could do this as well. But the closer you are to the front, the better.
I got a natural 1. Amaruk's too pent up in his own thoughts and just following behind Tahatan, gripping his weapons too tightly to be effective.
I think that Tukasuk is following close behind Tahatan. She has been very curious and very observant in where they're going, because she has never left much outside of the outskirts of her tribe. So she is just looking around everywhere, eyes darting, flicking about, looking at trees, at every noise that might have sounded.
It is your keen eyes which spot the small footsteps. Unmistakable. Certainly a woman's. Going up the river.
She would point. There are tracks. They must be hers. No other woman would come out this far, at least from the tribe.
And if they are hers, we are not far from Anpaytoo, or else this weather would have covered the tracks by now.
I'm very hopeful that she is close. I fear the worst.
Amaruk nods grimly at that and says, if we follow in Anpaytoo's footsteps, we might become lost too. And he's going to look either side of where these footsteps head and see if there's a way to safely kite or parallel the party as they track the footprints.
Absolutely. The footprints are perhaps 20 feet from the bank of the river, and they seem to run next to it. If you were to walk along the river rocks, you could follow them as well.
Would I be able to say kite as the group tracks those footsteps, maybe 100 feet, 90 feet, inland from the stream?
You could do that, definitely.
Yep. unless Tahatan says otherwise, he'll make to do that. It's kind of like a scout off to the side.
No, Tahatan will watch as you go and squint his eyes and peer off into the distance, both in the direction you're heading into, but also in the direction that these footsteps go towards.
Tahatan, as you walk, the wind whips around you. It stings your face, ice crystals embedded in it. They hit your cheek, and they burn. You see the snow blowing across the ground. You look behind, and your own footsteps are already beginning to fade. But Anpaytoo's look as if she had stepped there moments ago.
With a furrowed brow of curiosity, he'll walk back and kneel down at Anpaytoo's footsteps, touching them, running his hand along the inside of the depth of it, before calling it out to the others. See how my footsteps are obscured already. But these, as he runs his hand along the ice, packed ice, these remain fresh.
Anpaytoo walks with the Wintermaker, I fear. Or at least follows in footsteps only she can discern.
When you say Wintermaker, the wind seems to howl. Everybody roll a con save.
Two natural ones in a row for a start is a good omen, right?
I mean, get him out of the way now.
Ouch.
He's got impressive con, but yeah, it's not gonna pass anything.
I got a 14.
13.
I will admit, when I realized the tagline was like winter stuff, I was like, maybe a few points in Constitution.
Can I do something as I see Amaruk seem to be struggling?
You can.
I come up behind Amaruk and I place my hand on your shoulder, Amaruk. We haven't spoken since I was with Wayu presiding over the funeral rites for your child. But as I place my hand on your shoulder, you don't see the small tuft of bear fur that is pinched between my fingers as I just give you a squeeze, Amaruk. And as I do this, I just the prayer, the quick words of prayer you hear, Hawaneu, you would recognize is also the name of my wife who passed so many years before. And what I'm doing mechanically is casting Enhance Ability, which for the next hour, as long as I maintain concentration, I have granted Amaruk Bear's Endurance. Amaruk, you have advantage on Constitution checks And you also gain 2d6 temporary hit points. Do you want me to roll those or Amaruk?
Oh, you can roll them, sir.
You gain 6 temporary hit points as I just give you just a firm squeeze on the shoulder and kind of end it with a pat. And you may or may not notice that I have tucked the tuft of bear fur up under your deerskin hide collar.
Emeruk was like standing there, keeping vigil on the groups, like looking out, scouting its flank. Heard your approach, but was kind of just dumbstruck in that daydream with his eyes like frosting from the weather as he just like, I know his eyes, his tears frosting as he stares out. And he like feels the palm on the shoulder and hears the words and like sniffles and wipes his face and pulls his cloak up further about himself and puts on a stern face. Are we moving?
Amaruk, the wind that was beginning to chill you, beginning to reach the marrow of your bones, seems less foreboding at Lalawethika's touch.
He goes to like speak like words of thanks, but instead nods, and then moves to look busy or for something to do, or like find some task of scouting or the like. Too uncomfortable with the moment.
You continue up the mountain. It grows steeper. Tahatan, you are watching the footsteps that precede you. And they veer and seem to cross the river.
Knock the ice from his eyelashes with the back of his hand as he looks around for his footsteps and seeing them cross the river. He'll tap the nearest person on the shoulder and point them out, keeping his face buried in his furs, and set off in that direction, stopping every third or fourth footstep as if to gauge it for something.
You can just make out footsteps resuming in the snow on the other side. Still just as pristine, in spite of the wind. The river is wide, perhaps 30 feet. Around the banks there are bits of snow and ice, but it is deep and has not frozen over.
How will we cross? The snow is not yet. The ice, it's not thick enough.
Amaruk will like crunch up from the perimeter and hearing this with a hand on his tomahawk, look around at the nearby dead trees and see if there's anything wide enough that could be hacked and hollowed out that we could canoe across.
To hollow a canoe would take weeks. But you spot a tree that is tall enough to reach
cut
from
down.
one bank to the other.
could it be felled in a way that it would like cross over the river, or would it have to be felled and then dragged up and like put across like a narrow point?
If you would like to fell it, you can roll survival. If anyone's helping you, you may roll with advantage.
Crit.
Oh, yeah.
And my brave style is tomahawk base, so yeah, pretty good at cutting down the tree. He'll like cut down a tree with more wrath and enthusiasm than like one would see in a lumberjack. Like he's just hacking away at the thing, like this tree's responsible for something. Eventually, it like groans and surrenders and cracks and smashes down to the snowy ground. He like wipes off the sweat and like moves towards it to begin like hacking away the smaller, useless branches and leaving some longer ones as kind of rails or like guards across the way, you know, so you could grab on from branch to branch as you're walking across rather than just balancing on one cylinder. And yeah, he's too proud to ask for help when he tries to drag the trees cut down after doing this, but it's obvious that he can't by himself.
I think that Suk would actually just go behind him as he's hacking off these trees and kind of collecting them and putting them in another pile. And then when he went to move again, behind him would just kind of help him lift it.
I think that Kihakita would have helped, but he's probably off board, looking for a badger's den, sniffing around a rock encampment that looks rather cozy in all the snow. But once the tree finally falls, he looks back and then scampers over to help if he can.
Amarok, roll me a Constitution check.
23.
That's still with advantage. Wait, how long would it take him to cut the tree down, Taylor?
We'll see if he can roll with advantage. That's fine.
Yeah, the second roll was less, so 23.
There's steam rising from Amarok. He is fearsome. You think if he were facing an enemy, he could face 100 by himself. And yet when he finishes and the tree falls, he stands, breathes heavily for a moment, and then shakes like a wolf and does not seem tired for it.
He'll take the first treacherous crossing, and if he's successful, like lay down across or like sit down across the opposite end of the log to steady it to try and make it easier for others.
With the 5 of you working together and with the handholds you've left, it is simple to cross the river. Although you know if you fell, you would be carried some ways downstream in the icy water before you could be extracted.
Emerald's dreading to ask, but he needs to know if Anpaytoo's footprints can be found about here as well.
They can indeed.
The whole
Plain to
time,
see.
the whole time crossing the felled tree, and the whole time Amaruk was felling the tree, I have been first crouched by the river and then just keeping my eyes on the flowing water, unable to shake that vision of the river, the freezing river of blood. The whole time we've been traveling, I'm keeping an eye on the river, just looking for, as unlikely as it may be, looking for any traces of blood in the water. Because it is foolish to ignore the visions of the spirits, be they good or bad.
The water is clear. Shockingly so. You can see the smallest pebbles, the shades of brown and gray. There is no blood. Across the river, the footsteps continue. They go up a steep path. Rocky, slick, ice-covered. Why Anpaytoo would go such a way, it makes no sense. And yet, there even is a single handprint where she has pushed herself up to gain better foothold.
Tikasuk, you're Anpaytoo's friend. Why would she do this thing in winter? Why would she take this trail? It makes no sense. It is treacherous enough for us.
I don't. She starts. There was a man she was talking about. She came to me while I was sitting outside, and she told me a man came to her, eyes brilliant like the moon. And she wanted to marry him.
A stranger with moon eyes. Hearing those words, he'll like turn to regard Lilithika to see if that has any kind of omen or portent to read within it.
How much do I know of Wintermaker?
Roll me religion.
Excellent. The hardest part is choosing which die. Let's see, religion. That is a critical fail.
Ooh.
With a +2. So, regardless, I know that Wintermaker's a bad name.
Yes.
I think in my mind, Wintermaker, all that I know, perhaps from being taught by Wayu, is it's akin to a foul cuss word.
You said Wintermaker aloud earlier.
I did.
Everyone else go ahead and roll religion for me. See how many of you remember the stories of your childhood. None of you remember anything.
Makes sense if the spirit talker doesn't know that we don't know.
I think maybe more so it's less that I don't know than I'm just so absorbed by the vision that it's clouded my mind to be able to recall details.
Yeah, Lalawethika, you try and cast your mind to the name Wintermaker, but each time you search for it in your memory, you instead find Anpaytoo falling upon the blade of ice.
I think when Amaruk looks at me, my eyes still staring at the river, I don't break my gaze, almost transfixed by the flowing crystalline water. But I sense Amaruk looking at me, and I just say, Anpaytoo falls upon the blade of ice. The river of blood freezes, and all the world freezes.
She also mentioned that he said he would come when the moon is at its fullest. When I questioned her about it, she wasn't sure. She assumed he worshipped Grandmother Moon.
The spirits, they flit between the veil of light and dark as the moon, as Grandmother Moon waxes and wanes. Grandmother Moon will be at her fullest tonight.
I was naive to think it was just someone from another tribe, or perhaps some hunter, another brave, but so foolish.
Tikasuk, you cannot be faulted for not questioning Anpaytoo's heart.
She seemed so happy, and that she had talked to him before, and she was going to have him meet our tribe. This is not good.
The moon will rise soon. We should hurry up the mountain and follow the river that you have seen, Little Wathaka. He looks to Tahatan about this omen of Anpaytoo, Chief Arako's daughter impaled on this blade of ice. And I guess he looks to him for, I don't know, guidance or reassurance. That's probably what's actually motivating him to look, but he's to see if Tahatan will say something to the contrary or has another idea.
No, well, Tartan listens to this and hears this. As you look towards him, there's more of a morose look to his eyes. As he sees you looking, though, that quickly changes to determination as he gazes at the path taken. The Wintermaker we may want. It may not take.
When you speak the name again, there's the briefest of rumbles. And then a crack. Everyone roll dexterity save. Ice is breaking, and the rocks that Anpaytoo climbed are falling. All right, this is DC 15. So it looks like just Tahatan and Amarok are able to pull away. Everyone else is going to take 6 bludgeoning damage. Amarok and Tahatan, you will take 3.
I've been using my short spear like a walking stick. I imagine I'm probably the oldest among this group here by maybe as much as 10 years. And it's showing how difficult it is. And with the rumbling and the shaking and the breaking of the ice, my spear kicks out from under me and I slam into the ground and into the shifting ice with a very audible "Ooh!"
Megan, you got a 0?
I have a -1, and I rolled a 1.
Ooh. Roll me a d10, please.
Yep. 8.
Your ankle is hit by a rock. Your speed is halved mechanically as your ankle begins to swell even in the cold.
Kaksuk would cry out in pain and immediately go to her ankle, clutching it in pain. And it would start to pack snow into her moccasins. Not too much. And then she would tie off where the snow is to possibly save her foot from getting wet, but also hopefully to bring down the swelling of her ankle. She tries to stand up and she wipes away the few tears of pain in her eyes, still looking determined, trying to shake off this wound.
The rockfall has left you more bruised than you were, but the way up is not as steep now. With effort, you can climb it.
Kiha Kita steps up to the rock face and he pats the frozen stone. Brother Mountain is either very upset or has decided to show us the way. Do we climb?
We must. For Anpaytoo, lead the way. You're surest of foot in these places.
We go. He starts testing the rocks, looking to the others to see if they follow, shouldering his pack a little farther to the rear, cinching it down around his waist, trying to keep his center of gravity as close to the rock face as possible.
Emarok's right behind you. Wait here. We'll ascend and then we'll throw down a rope. It will be quicker and safer. I'm going to try and get a foothold, and so that I can support leg up Kahitika to the next portion up, and then clamber up behind him and do the same, slower but but safer.
It is slow going, yes, as you test each rock for surety, as you slip on the ice and regain your balance. By the time the 5 of you reach the top of this ledge and can continue, the sun is past its zenith.
Kihak Kata is not above saying many, many small prayers to the spirits as he ascends, mechanically using guidance whenever he can on himself or Amaruk. And if they're able to get to a small outcropping, somewhere there's safety and a means to relay down some sort of sinuous rope, they will. And he will call down to the others, "If you fall, do not cry out. There is much loose snow above us."
You continue walking. Kihakita, you hear it first. At first, you think it is the wind across the rocks. A high, keening noise. And then there's another. A harmony, then a dissonance. A low noise. All of them melding together, a cacophony of sound so faint. When you pause to listen, the rest hear it as well. It sets your teeth on edge. It makes you colder to hear it.
He's going to hitch himself against the stone again, peering out, looking around, wondering if it's the wind, some beast, some animal. And then he'll close his eyes and attempt to really listen, not as a man, but as a beast. Has he heard this before? What could it possibly be?
You focus, Kihakita, connecting to the wolf spirit inside you. And you hear loudly this music that hurts. Music but not music. Wind but not wind. You remember the words of the brother wolf. His unease, the way their hackles did not lie still. You know what drove them away. It is whatever the source of this noise is. It would be enough to make any wolf go mad were they to stay too long.
Kihakita, he recoils. He pushes the fur that he has on his cloak up and up as if his hackles were raised. He tries to fold his ears down. He looks away from wherever this noise could be coming. Again, his eyes closed. "I will go no further. Huh? It is bad. I was warned." And he will begin trying to stuff pieces of deer hide in his ears, anything to stop it.
Take heed in the spirits. We must go further. We must get to Anpaytoo. Save her.
Yeah, Amarok will push on despite Kita's protestations and the foreboding keening of the wind. Like every time he glimpses the sun, it's like it's plummeting quicker into darkness. And his pace is making him probably reckless on the trail, for starters, and also kind of a bit dispassionate to Kita's like being plagued by this noise. But his sense of urgency is such that he will move on.
I will go to his side as he is attempting to force the pieces of deer hide in his ears. I place a hand on his shoulder, and I attempt to pull him into an upright position, putting a firm hand on him as I begin to chant. Anybody who has heard my chants and prayers before might not recognize this one. Mechanically, I'm doing nothing. I am merely trying to calm Kia Kita. Is that how you say it? With a general prayer to the spirits.
He's thrashing about some as you first show up. His hands, again, frantically trying to put something in his ears to stop the noise. Perhaps it's even more psychological than physical, but he just cannot hear it, knowing that it bothered the great wolves. It must bother him. It has to. Even if he is a runt of a wolf, he is a wolf. And he was told this was bad, and therefore it is to him. And he begins rocking back and forth the closer you get, perhaps moving away at first, but then knowing that you, Valawithika, have comforted him a bit in the past. Perhaps helped him with a burn if he got too close to the flames. Perhaps helping him through a heavy storm when he is like to run out into the wild instead of seeking shelter. But he slowly stops a bit. It is not good! It is not good! Will it stop? Will it stop?
Remember, Grandmother Moon is nearly at her fullest tonight. Are you not one of her prized grandchildren? Kia, Kita. Listen to Grandmother Moon's comfort. We must press on. We need you. You muted out.
He leans and he nods. He favors his left ear, perhaps assuming that is the ear he hears it in. But then he nods and he looks towards the mountain. For the tribe, yes. We go. We go.
Amarok, you have left Kihakita a bit behind, unsympathetic to his complaints. You're moving quickly. Too quickly. And as you walk forwards, there's a roar. And you see a great she-bear shaking her head at you, teeth bared. Everybody roll initiative.
There are ones flying all over the place tonight. Cameron stepped away for a second, Taylor.
That's fine. We'll slot him in. I should roll initiative for she-bear. Tahatan, you are quick. You know the things which live up here. And you act first when you hear the roar of a she-bear. Her eyes locked on Amaruk.
So Tahatan, probably fatigued from the trek, the climb, the cold, has let his guard drop somewhat. And as he sees this bear rear up in the distance from him, he shouts out a warning to Amaruk. He will unsling his bow and attempt to take a shot, even though from this distance he cannot see too clearly, just the hazy shape of this bear. It's only going to be a 12.
Your arrow, with your poor eyesight, you think, has missed. But there's a loud roar, louder than the first, with a keening note of pain. What's the damage for that, Jex?
3 damage it will be.
Did you want to move in at all, or do you have any bonus actions?
Yeah, sorry. He trudged forward through the snow as far as his movement will take him.
It puts you just ahead of Amaruk, and the she-bear's gaze shifts to you. Well, that's an 18 on the die. This is gonna hurt. Her bite catches you first with 6 damage. Will a 14 hit?
14 will indeed hit.
Her claw catches you next. Faster than you would have thought possible for a creature this size. It rakes across you, deep into your skin. 10 damage.
Yeah, I've done a lot of in front of Amaruk.
Amarok.
He just like screams. He screams just inaudibly, like not inaudibly, no words, like ah! But it forms into Tahatan when he sees the older man rush forward and get crunched on by this bear. He will rush around behind the she-bear and draw out his spear. So he's got a tomahawk in one hand and spear in the other. And he's just going to drive the spear in as hard as he can to like punch through the hide, and then using the shaft of it to guide his tomahawk strike down into like a close place to where it initially struck, and try and like bust through the skin and begin ripping and tearing to try and get it to turn away from biting on his companion. It's going to be 19 for the first and a crit for the second. The crit will be with the tomahawk, so 14. And the regular hit will be 10, so 34 piercing and slashing.
24?
34. Hang on. What did I say? 10? 14 and 10. Sorry, 24, yes. That's why you're the engineer and I'm the bum.
Your strike is true. If the tree felt your wrath, it is nothing compared to what anger you unleash on this music-maddened creature. The eyes glazed over with unnatural fury. It roars again in pain, and a great spout of blood colors the snow crimson. The eyes turn to you, and the teeth are bared. Tikasuk.
How far away are they? She stayed near Kita.
They're about 60 feet away.
She is going to just not yell, but kind of cry out in distress and begin limping towards them. And that's going to be her turn as she just kind of gets out a small pendant made out of wood that her father had carved for her, and it is of a mountain lion, and she just kind of holds on to it for comfort in approaching this bear, but she's just going to move 30 feet.
Kihakita. The noise of the music is drowned out by the sound of this bear. You see Amarak and Tahatan. Within reach of it, blood on the snow, you're not sure whose.
He seems to snap to with the great roar of the bear, the sounds of battle. He was shaking his head, trying to repeat some of the words of Lalawithika, remembering from the fires, the nights, calming. And then the great roar of the bear brings him to. And he shouts out, "No!" And he runs forward, seeing the blood on the ground, knowing that this cannot end well. "Great cousin bear, we mean you no harm. Try back. Leave it be. It is mad like myself. The sound is terrible to us all. We must find another way." And he is again reaching into his medicine bag and drawing out crushed leaves, roots that he has powdered, and blowing them into the wind towards the bear, breathing them himself, trying to calm not only the beast, but the beast within him. And mechanically, I'm going to attempt to use animal friendship. It would be a wisdom save for the bear if it was applicable.
You see the wind catch the herbs, and they blow straight into the bear's face, and the maddened eyes change not. It bellows again.
A tear rolls down Kihakita's face, freezing on his cheek. And he looks away. That noise, that sound, he knows there is nothing for it. He will not be a part of the demise of this great beast, but it seems that he cannot stop it. And he will just step away.
Lalawithika.
How far away is Tahatan from me?
60 feet.
I call out, "Tahatan!" as the bear strikes at him. And as the others are moving and Kihakita is attempting to speak with the bear, I am leaning on my spear, trudging up towards Tahatan in the snow, but knowing I'm only going to be able to make it about halfway there, I reluctantly pull my short bow and attempt to strike at the bear. This is not something I'm comfortable with. I actually say this out loud, kind of under my breath, as I draw my bow and take a shot at this bear. 13.
You hit it.
4 points of piercing damage from my arrow. And as a bonus action, I mutter a quick word of prayer to the spirits, as in the same hand with which I knocked the arrow, there is a small piece of deer hide with some symbols etched upon it. As I mutter to the spirits that I know dwell in the light of Grandmother Moon for protection, and I call them to surround me in a shield of faith, which will, for the 10 minutes I concentrate, will add a +2 to my armor class. That's a bonus action.
Tahatan, you are bleeding. There is a searing pain.
Tahatan presses the torn strips of his furs to the skin where the bear has clawed him, feeling the warmth of blood as it soaks down his torso. But you can hear Abaruk's bellow and seeing him chop at this great bear, and feels he must aid in this bravery. He reaches down, wincing in pain, grabs a handful of snow packed with ice and rock and throws it at the bear over and over, screaming out, aiming to disorientate and annoy the beast. And that's all he's going to do. He's going to take the dodge action. Well, he does that on this turn.
The she-bear is growing weak as her blood continues to pour onto the ground. The snow is melting. Lalawethika, from where you stand, it looks like a river of blood. She strikes out. 19 to hit for you, Nico. Ooh, followed by higher to hit.
Yep. Minus 15.
Her bite grabs your arm. 6. The claws rend through you. 11.
Yeah, they're both screaming. She's screaming in pain. They're both screaming, like she's screaming in pain, he's screaming in pain. Blood and the snow, a maelstrom. He's going to try and drive his spear down her throat and then use it to hook her head sideways and drive the axe in behind her ear. For 15 on the die, which I assume will hit a bear, and then a 16 on the die.
Describe how you kill the she-bear.
As I say, drive the spear down her throat, stifling the roar, and then just hack behind the ear till I hear like the brain, like the skull crack beneath, and they'll like stamp the tomahawk head in to kill her quickly, so she's not suffering. Then he just rips it out and then looks down at his own arm, and there's tears in his eyes dripping down into the blood, and he just screams while he hacks her maybe 2 or 3 times. Than was necessary, like screaming and crying indignation at her corpse before like stumbling back like in a drunk man's stupor, probably disgracefully like falling backwards onto his ass in the snow and blood, just like and then looks across the like the death rattle of the she-bear to see Tahatan's maimed shoulder, and like tries to rise and go crawl to the older man. Tahatan!
I'm still... Are we out of combat now? I'm dragging myself up and through the snow towards Tahatan and Amaruk and the she-bear and the blood that is flowing like the river in my vision. And I trudge up through the bloody snow mixed with blood melting and running in rivulets downward. And I grab a handful of this bloody snow. And when I reach Tahatan and Amaruk, holding the bloody snow in my hands and just working it almost into this bloody ice ball, I begin a prayer to the spirits of Grandmother Moon, the light that shines down upon us in this darkness. And I continue this for the next 10 minutes. If I am uninterrupted in this, which I would hope the others would recognize that I'm performing a healing ritual. If I am uninterrupted, I will be able to perform 2d8 plus 4 healing to Tahatan and Amaruk. I'll roll that, and then we can determine if anybody interrupts that or anything interrupts that. So that would be 16 points of healing to each. And actually, if Tikasuk, if she is within 30 feet, she will also benefit from this healing as well. I don't believe Kiakita had taken any damage, if I'm not mistaken.
Tikasuk, you can choose for that to apply to your hit points or to remove the injured condition of your foot.
I'm going to remove the injured condition instead of the hit points. Definitely.
Yeah.
And as I'm finishing this healing ritual, mixing with my war paint that Wayu painted across my face, I take the blood on my hands and I crisscross down my face with the she-bear's blood as a way of finishing the prayer.
The only sound apart from Laloethika is the quiet, pervasive music that is not music. You cannot rest while you hear it. Although Laloethika's prayers seem to have their effect, and you are strengthened, even here in the bitter cold.
Hihakita approaches. He stands within the comforting presence of Lalawithika, the rocks that had fallen from the cliff, having bruised and cut him on his shoulder. But he rallies against the pain that he has felt seeing this great cousin bear fall. He tears at a small shrub absently. He shakes his head, still hearing that maddening sound. But finally, he feels better after a few moments, and he wipes the ice-crusted tears from his face. Now what? Now what? For why? Why we go up? And up is bad. There is so much bad here. Why do we go up? Anpaytoo, she is chosen. We should never have gone up.
She did not choose. She was tricked, fooled. And if what Lala Wethika said was true, then her fate determines all of ours. We must press onward. For her sake, for our sake.
Wolves do not climb, and you ask me to soar. He looks up the mountain. We had better hurry, but this is wrong. It is all wrong.
She looks to Emeruk and Tahatan to see how they are faring after the fight, and seeing if they are willing to or ready to continue up the mountain.
It is more blood than bite. We are fine. Anpaytoo needs us. We must go. Stuff your ears thick with disc, and if you must, Kihikatan. Your mouth too, if needs be. We're going up. There is only one path before us. You're coming.
He kind of sneers in the direction of Amaruk, and then bites the inside of his hand, kind of snarling quietly to himself, but then looks away, looks back towards the top of the mountain, looks towards the dead bear. Let us not tarry then. Go!
Amaruk will stalk forward, using his spear now as a walking stick, as little Wethika does, because of his limp and the wounds.
You continue to follow Anpaytoo's footsteps. Tatan, what are you thinking as they lead you further up the mountain?
It's made to bring her home and back to the Anpaytoo's childhood, watching her grow. Always a grateful child in the light of her father's eye. He could not bear to go back without her.
You continue, and the sun is dipping behind the mountains. In the east, stars are beginning to appear. And then the footsteps cease. There is no snow inside the cave where they lead. Only darkness.
Should we light a torch, or should we remain in the darkness?
I'd rather have what's in there see us than not see it. And he'll nod and take his tomahawk to like hacking it, some like with a lot of twigs and branches, trying to like split them to make a small fire that he can burn some branches in.
It is not your first time, Amaruk, creating such a thing. Perhaps even several. With fire to guide your eyes and to warm you, you enter the darkness. The cave is deep. It drips, even in the cold. The water trickles down the wall and then freezes in puddles on the floor. The ground is uneven and slippery. It seems to be covered in ice, all of it. It shimmers in the torchlight, unnatural shadows reflecting. Who was first? Who seeks Anpaytoo more than they fear the unknown?
Knowing what is at stake here, based on the vision and the name I heard whispered in the wind, I would attempt to take the lead. I'm not the fastest nor the strongest, but I would attempt to take point.
Tikasuk would be next, following close behind, eager to be reunited with her friend and to know that she is safe.
Amarok will follow third.
I think that unless he is prodded or forced, Kihakito will remain in the back, almost cowering, skirting the edge of the cave entrance. But he would not leave his pack. He will always stay within eyesight.
And desperate but cautious, the old hunter spirit inside, and probably puts him more to the back with Giha. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that name. Gita.
You got it.
Lalawethika, in your age, you are not as sure-footed as you might have been. The way is treacherous, slipping, uneven rocks that are coated in ice you cannot see, in spite of the torches you hold. It seems black like the rock, and then other times it seems as if the rock is made of ice instead. There is very little light, but it is not quiet. The music that is not music grows louder. And perhaps the faint tap of something else. Lalawethik, I would like you to roll perception as you walk. Tikasuk, you're very close. You roll it as well.
Good roll for a change. 21.
But a 16.
Lalawethika, you're walking on the black rock and the black ice. And you feel the slightest creak of ice beneath your feet. Some instinct tells you that where you step might not have rock beneath it.
I gesture in a way that I imagine I have seen Tahatan hold up his hand as a sign for all in the hunting party to stop where they are. And then I turn to the others. It is only the ice we walk upon now. Perhaps it is best if we spread out as much as possible. Better only one of us should fall than all of us. And then I look back to, I guess, Tikasuk is, I believe, the closest to me.
Yeah, she was very close to you, right behind.
So I kind of look to her for assurance as I suddenly realize that I am essentially leading a war band. And I just kind of look to her as if to say, after I say that, to kind of say, right?
You would see your worried look matched in the eyes of Tikasuk. She, too, has not gone out, but she knows that, at least in a river, the ice is thickest at the edges. And so she would, yes, perhaps stay to the edges. Maybe the ice will be thicker. We can walk upon it. How wide is this area that we're walking in?
The part you're in is about 20 feet wide right now. From what you can tell, it's difficult to see. There might be more of it beyond the reach of your torchlight, but it seems roughly that.
Okay, yeah, and so then she would kind of wearily walk over to the one side of the cave wall and just kind of begin carefully stepping. Maybe holding on to the wall. Is it sheer or is it kind of ragged?
It's a little bit ragged. You can run your fingers across, feeling as you go for handholds you might grip if the ice were to give way beneath you.
So she's going to do that, kind of like side stepping almost.
And I think I would take her lead then on that same tactic.
Amarak, I believe you were third. Do you follow suit?
He'll take the same path, but he'll wait till like he can only just see person in front of him, so that there's like maximum amount of distance between us to separate, like to spread out the weight, and then he'll step forward.
As Tahatan and Kihekita also wait their turns. Tikasuk, you are at the front now. You hear the music. You hear this tap. And you know what it is. And as you feel rough rock beneath your feet, you hear the shuffle of the others coming behind you. When you look over your shoulder, you can see the torchlight moving unsteadily. And as you take one tentative step further, you see moonlight, it seems.
There must be some sort of hole. I can see the moon. And she would just begin kind of walking towards this light. We must be close.
The glow up ahead grows brighter, and you come to a cavern. You were correct, there is an opening, almost perfectly round. The stars are visible, but that is not the source of light. There's ice all around and snow, and the ice on the wall seems to beam with moonlight, luminescent. There is a man, a warrior, shirtless in spite of the cold. He plays a long wooden flute. It is harsh and delicate. The music swells with low notes like the rumble of an avalanche, then something sharp like the crack of ice. Then it returns to the tinkling of icicles and the whistling of wind across a mountain pass. Anpaytoo dances, her feet beating out the rhythm. In the center, along the far wall, is a stone, and a single shard of ice protrudes from it. And that's where we're going to take a bio break. And we'll come back to see what happens next.
Oh, yeah.
So get your smoke, get your drink, use the ladies' room or the
Get
little
my
boys'
blood
room.
pressure medicine.
Get your
Jeez.
blood pressure medicine, get a blanket, get your hot chocolate. We'll be back shortly.
I'm completely 100% immersed.
Yeah, I was just gonna say before the break, like I was just so enraptured by that image. Like you're like, okay, let's take a break. I'm like, but we're in a cave. You can't break in a cave. No, it's really, really awesome.
You can't break in a cave. I'm the DM. I do whatever I want.
The glory of the DM. You can declare when the bio breaks happen. I love this Spirit Talker class. It's so different than a standard any type of cleric.
I had a lot of fun building the archetypes and trying to get lore and flavor into mechanics. And I suppose if I wanted to really test and see if the mechanics are broken, I should have just put you through a meat grinder, but
I think this is a great way, though, for a first play test, just to see what such a diverse cast of players do with your archetypes.
Ow, ow.
Is that wolf spirit for I'm back?
Yep. I mean, yep.
I'm looking over as we're going into this and you're describing the scene. I'm looking over my list of spells and I'm like, I have nothing offensive. But I love that. I love that in a class, in any system where you have to think beyond what you kind of, DPS or whatever.
Yeah, you got that chant down. Started making those chant songs go, and I was like, "Oh yeah!"
I wish I could sing or chant.
yeah, you guys are doing a great job, by the way. Thank you so much, because mechanics are one thing, but it's up to the players to do more than I cast healing word.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just like staring at my spell list, like, how do I make that not ridiculous? Okay, here's how it could maybe happen.
All right. I think we're all back. Tikasuk, that is the scene that greets you. Laloethika, you come up moments behind her, feeling the rock beneath your feet instead of the ice. And as you see this man, and you see the ice, the altar, you might call it, he turns and he looks at you, and his eyes are silver. Moonlight on frost. And in that moment, you hear the voices yelling, "Wintermaker, Wintermaker." It's a cacophony. There must be dozens of them. But they tell you the story. They tell you that Anpaytoo will be Winter Mother. If she falls upon the ice willingly, it will melt in her heart. The river of blood will freeze. It will freeze the world, just as you saw. It must be Anpaytoo. 4 seasons, 4th daughter of a 4th son. When you open your eyes, Amarak and Kihekita and Tahatan are next to you as well. Still, the music that is not music plays, and Anpaytoo dances.
As much as I'm able, as the voices are singing or speaking or whispering this song in my head, I begin chanting and relaying what they are saying. And I would imagine almost in unison with the voices that I hear, unsure if the others can hear it. How far away is Anpaytoo and this man?
Roll me a wisdom check to see how well you can relay
Okay.
that information as it's being bombarded, as
Is
you're
this
being
a
bombarded by it.
straight wisdom check or a saving throw?
Just a straight check.
Okay. Let's see. That's a +2. 10.
What the rest of you hear from Lalawethika is nonsense. Numbers and words and names you know and names you don't. He seems to be speaking with the spirits, but it makes no sense to you. The cavern that you face, all 5 of you, is not a small cavern. The hole at the top is nearly 100 feet above you. Icicles glimmer from the roof. It is perhaps another 100 feet deep. The blade of ice that sits upon the altar seems tiny, an insignificant thing from where you stand. But it shines in the gloom wickedly. It is at least as wide as it is deep. The floor uneven and slick with ice.
So you said that the the cavern dips below us?
It's out in front of you. You would have to go down slightly, like maybe 10 feet.
I think that in spite of everything that she knows is wrong or not smart, she is horrified to see her friend under what she thinks is a horrible spell, and with what Lala Withika had foretold, she's just going to charge in to try and grab Anpaytoo.
She is at least 80 feet away.
Yeah, she's gonna start running.
If you are running, I need you to make a dexterity save as you go.
My first one is a 12.
The ice and the unevenness are your undoing. Ungracefully, you lose your footing and slam to the cavern floor.
As she does so, she will start yelling out Anpaytoo's name and quickly try to scrabble back to her feet, uncaring of the pain or of the wind that is knocked out of her from falling. She is just trying to get to her friend, and that is all she cares about right now. Does she seem like when she yells out her name, does she hear her? Does she make any...
Anpaytoo turns and looks at you and smiles. She beams at you, pure joy radiating off her face.
She would just scream, "No, what have you done to her? What have you done to her?" over and over again as she's trying to get to Anpaytoo.
Despite the perhaps incoherent nature of my chanting, I have withdrawn from my satchel a small doll made of corn silk and corn husk, wrapped in colored beads. This doll once belonged to my daughter, Lalue, who died on the same day as my wife, Hawaneu. And I begin slowly walking towards Anpaytoo and this figure, continuing to chant, but now holding this doll. And as I'm shaking the doll up and moving it through the air, I lick the top of the doll, the corn husk hair, and dip the now wet head into my pouch where I have powdered iron filings. And I begin again motioning, and I draw a mark first from top to bottom and then across, essentially a plus sign on my forehead as I continue to walk. And mechanically, I am casting protection from evil. And if you'll allow the reflavor, instead of undead, I would like to use it as protection from spirits.
Absolutely.
And so that will last for 10 minutes, granting me a couple of mechanical benefits as I move up to my walking speed towards them, continuing to chant. And even after I've drawn the mark, I'm making the motions, kind of mimicking that plus sign through the air, and whatever else gibberish as I'm affected by these voices in my head.
Tahatan, you are watching the young woman who you saw grow up, the one who smiled at you when she was a baby, who said your name with a toddler's lisp. She seems so happy. But the music is wrong. Your teeth clench and you feel it in your marrow of your bones. And the cold seeps in.
Yeah, he can feel it. As you say, in the marrow of his bones, it's the weight of every year of his life bearing down upon him at once. Every unsuccessful hunt, every hard season where the food was too scarce or sickness too rampant. Every night spent in the cold, far away from home. He feels it all at once as he tries to make his way tentatively down. He will try and make his way, but cautiously, almost like he is forcing himself onward against all of this. I think he'll even try and call out her name as well, but it'll probably catch in his throat as he does so.
She sees your movement, and she looks at you, her dark eyes shining. She seems to wave as she dances, beckoning you to join. Kihakita, what are you doing?
He is skulking near as far back in the shadows as he can, smelling around these icy pools, watching his step. But he hears the sound, that maddening noise, and he slowly comes to terms with the fact that everything he had heard from the village, from these others speaking, is probably true. With the noise, with the light reflecting off of the ice, he seems completely distracted for a few moments, looking around, jumping at shadows. And then he kind of reaffirms himself and decides that he needs to know more. And he pushes farther into the cave, watching his step and preparing himself, gathering a fistful of small animal bones, rats and squirrels. In his other hand, he has gathered his spear to the ready. And he will move forward until he can see everything everyone else can see. And just take in what he can. And I'd like to roll a perception check if possible, to see if there's anything else odd about Anpaytoo that maybe he could see that no one else has. His eyes perhaps well adjusted to the cavern.
You are welcome to roll it.
14.
You notice that she is barefoot.
I mean, is she standing on ice, on rock?
Ice.
What is she closest to?
She is nearest to the Wintermaker.
Is there anything within arm's reach of either of them?
He seems to only have his wooden flute.
I think that Kiyakita will stick to the shadows and attempt to get closer and closer. His goal eventually to stop this man. But you will tell me when it is prudent to do otherwise, but at the moment he will be skulking forward.
And Amarok. You see before you a warrior, by all appearances unmatched. You've never seen his equal.
Emerok almost knows that he can't defeat this foe. And the words like mumbled amongst the maddening omen seen by little Wathika and disturbs him. And he knows what must be done, and he fears the repercussions of that nearly as much as he fears the repercussions of the omen coming to truth. And he won't even allow himself a thought of his wife and then he can't think of that even. And so he hefts his atlatl And I will murder and tapo you.
Roll it.
I don't know if a 12 will do it. And my action surge for a 17.
Those both hit.
10 and 9, 19 piercing damage all up. And then I break into a run, drawing my tomahawk as I go, sprinting for her.
I will need a dex save as you sprint, and everybody, let's just go ahead and roll initiative.
14 for my dex save.
That's enough. You keep running. Just barely enough, but... Anpaytoo is dancing when the long arrow of the Atlatl strikes her. It catches her straight in the chest, and her eyes go wide. Her mouth forms a perfect O. And she crumbles. Okay, and I think... Do I have everybody's initiative? It looks like it. Tikasuk. You've seen this. And Anpaytoo is not dancing anymore.
Tikasuk would scream in just pain and rage. This is not what they were supposed to do. This is not. And she doesn't even look at Amaruk. She is just trying to get to Anpaytoo, run to her as fast as she can, maybe to beat Amaruk, to put herself in between him and Anpaytoo.
Roll a dex save as you run across the ice and the rock. DC is 14.
I got a 14.
Nice. You were slightly ahead of Amaruk, and his charge caught you by surprise. But you're faster than he is. You begin to outpace him slightly.
Yes, and she has stopped yelling and is just quiet. She can feel this energy coursing through her, though she doesn't know what it is. This energy of being, of power, of litheness, of just this, something that she had never felt before. And seeing her friend down by the hand of a fellow tribesman, she is actually going to go into a rage at this. As she begins to see red in the corner of her eyes, in her periphery.
Tahatan. Amaruk has struck down Anpaytoo. So it seems.
Weariness in Tahata's legs seems to disappear as all this happens as he rushes forward. He is also going towards the prone body of the girl. Is she breathing? Is she still alive?
You can roll me perception or medicine. You're still a ways away.
I'm just going to stay hopeful that she's alive.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it as hope, and just rush towards her.
If you're going to run, as in double move, then I will need you to roll a dex save to keep from falling on the ice.
Certainly.
DC 14.
That's a nat 20.
Ooh. Yeah. You are old, but that means this is not your first time on ice. You move, shifting your center of gravity. You make it look easy. The music stops. And the silence is terrible. Everything grows cold. You were already cold, but this is beyond what you thought. Everybody roll a con save. There's a wind that begins to whip up inside the cavern. Tikasuk and Lalawethika. You take 1 level of exhaustion as the cold steals the life from you. Tahatan yells, and it is the sound of an avalanche in his voice. It echoes, reverberating through the cavern. Fearsome. Spears of ice burst up between all of you and him and his bride. Lalawethika.
With the with the wind whipping up, I know it wasn't specifically damaged, but I rolled to see if I maintained concentration on my protection. And I think the wind whipping up and the sudden silence, everything happening at once, shakes me to my core, and I lose my concentration on the protection from evil. I stutter in my step for a moment. The spears of ice that have just appeared, are they completely impeding movement toward him, or am I still able to move around them?
You could go through them, but it will hurt.
How close can I get to him?
You can get within 30 feet.
Still chanting, stopping only for a moment, still moving my daughter's doll as I chant. I will move through the ice spears until I can get within 30 feet of him. And I will use my connection with the spirits as a spirit talker to channel divinity and create a spirit ward, which means that if he's within 30 feet, if he is a spirit or spirit touched, he needs to make a wisdom saving throw. The DC is 12.
He feels your presence, and his silver eyes are angry. And then he shakes his head and returns his attention to Anpaytoo. Seems to have had no effect.
If he succeeded, he will take a mere 3 points of radiant damage, and it will not be affected in any other way. I imagine as I'm walking through these spires, these spears of ice, that they are cutting into, tearing at my deerskin hide and ripping into my flesh. Even if it's superficial or not, I just would continue to move as scratches, scrapes, gouges, whatever it may be, are forming in order to get this position and attempt to have an effect on him.
The spears, the way they're situated, mechanically they're about 10 feet deep. And the inner radius closest to Wintermaker is the 30-foot mark, so you have to move all the way through them to get close enough to be effective.
And I would do that.
As you go through and it pierces you, you're going to take 8 points of damage.
Continuing as flesh is torn and my clothes are torn until I'm close enough. So a total of 8 from that whole movement? Okay.
Amarak.
Can I see Anpaytoo?
It would be very difficult to see her. These spears are nearly as high as you are.
In that case, I'll put myself in harm's way to get to her. Move through the ice spears.
You will take 12 damage as you move through a bit more recklessly than Laloethika, it seems.
Now can I look down upon her? Is she breathing?
She's still about 30 feet away from the edge, and that was difficult terrain, so
I see.
Yeah. You can roll either perception or medicine to see if you can see if she's breathing from a distance.
No, I'll just rely on my passive and use my action to move again.
Yeah, that'll put you about 15 feet away from where Wintermaker is kneeling over Anpaytoo.
And that's all I can do. Actually, I can second wind. I think I will actually, because that was brutal. That's not a D10, Nicholas. That is. Okay, that's it for me.
Kia kita.
In all of the commotion and all the movement and changes to the environment, where does Kiha Kita find himself? How far from the action?
You could get to these spears with a movement. Through them with a second one, perhaps.
And right now the Wintermaker is kneeling over the injured woman.
He is. He is perhaps another 30 feet beyond the spears.
The wolf brother of this tribe doesn't know exactly what is going on. He's still confused, seeing what Amarok has done, unknowing as to what is the correct choice here. He knows, at least, that the Wintermaker is bad. And so he will try and gain some sort of vantage, perhaps on a boulder or a rock outside of this circle of ice spears. And then he will pray to the grandmother moon, seeking to use her light to his advantage. I believe you said there was some light shining in before?
Absolutely. There is light coming in through the hole, and the ice appears to glow, although that glow has dimmed, and it seems to have a different hue to it now.
He is going to pray to Grandmother Moon, ask her for her luminescence, ask her for her might, for her guidance, for her fury. Mechanically, he will be seeking to use Moonbeam, which would potentially cause radiant damage to the Wintermaker. It is a DC 13 con save.
How big is Moonbeam?
It is a 20-foot shaft, or I'm sorry, a 20-foot distance, but a 5-foot shaft, 40-foot high cylinder.
Okay. So what's the DC you said?
13. And so I see him kind of grabbing maybe a piece of ice, smashing it with a flint stone off of the wall, and his own eyes reflecting the light where he thinks it should shine. And perhaps it does. Perhaps the clouds shift in the sky above the cave.
They do, and you see the light hitting Wintermaker on his bare neck and shoulder.
It's 2d10, and I rolled a total of 12.
Great.
And he'll howl out, trying to just perhaps gain his attention, distract him for whatever his fell task is.
Tikasuk.
These ice is merely a obstacle to get through for Tikasuk. And she is going to do whatever means it would take to get through them and to continue on to Anpaytoo. And she would use her full action to get to her. Right?
So difficult terrain to get through the ice, which will slow you down. You will draw just about even with Amarok.
Okay.
You guys are maybe 15 feet away now from Anpaytoo and from the Wintermaker.
Okay.
Tatan.
As sure-footed as he was crossing the distance so far, I don't think Tartan's momentum would stop him in time before he reaches these spears. So he'll throw his arm over his face and slightly turn to the side to protect himself a little as he crashes into them, and he'll use his dash action, I guess, to try and get his way through them.
You do. You are swift, but at some cost. 11 damage. The Wintermaker picks up Anpaytoo. She seems to weigh nothing in his arms. He puts his back to all of you and cradles her and whispers. His whispers grow more insistent, louder even, and then it's a yell. You cannot understand what he's saying. You hear the frustration in his voice. The cavern echoes with it. And then there's a crash, and another, and another. Everybody rolled dex saves as icicles begin to fall from the roof. All right, Tikasuk and Kiakita, you will take 6 damage as icicles fall and shatter about you. The rest of you will take 3. Laloethica. You can see a bit of Anpaytoo's hair trailing over Wintermaker's arm, and her feet bare and a little bit blue from the cold. But he has his back to you.
So I ended at 30 feet. Is there still spears of ice to move through to get to them?
No.
I'm going to move to close the distance. And just being able to get to them, I reach my free hand out to touch her blue hand or foot. Not thinking of the Wintermaker, thinking of Anpaytoo. And as I touch her foot, the chanting changes a bit. And I'm pushing my connection with the spirits to channel their healing energies into Anpaytoo, which is mechanically cure wounds, which for some reason is eluding me. Which means as I do this in an attempt to save her, whoops, check die, would, if it has any effect, would heal her for 10 hit points.
Her foot is cold as ice. And yet, there seems to be the slightest warmth where your hand was. And Wintermaker lifts his head and turns to see you. his brow furrowed. Amarok.
I'm going to move up the remaining 15 feet and get around in front of Wintermaker so I can observe Anpaytoo. Is she breathing? Is she alive?
She is.
I'm sorry. Being this, before I do that, with my passive perception of 13, this Wintermaker, this peerless warrior, do I get any sense now up close that he may possess some form of weakness or be in any way like mortal, natural, vanquishable?
No.
And I'll hack her head off for a 18, and for my bonus action, a 13.
Yes, those both hit.
Okay, so the first will be 6, and the second will be 8. I'm dual fighter, so I get to add my dex to my second strikes.
Your first strike hits Anpaytoo. There's a sickening noise. Your second blow glances, because at that moment you are forced backwards. You fly through the air. Take 7 points of damage as you slam into the cavern wall.
That bloodies me. So maybe it's face first, and like my face just smashed into the wall, and I collapse at the ground, like heaving, barely manage to come to my
Wintermaker's
senses.
eyes are blazing, and you can feel the cold where his power touched you and forced you away from his beloved. Kia kita.
Kiakita has thought he has seen madness before. He has thought that he has heard madness, that he has encountered it. But this truly is, within this cave, this iced cavern, he is seeing things he never thought he would. And if Amaruk attacks Anpaytoo instead of this man, the Wintermaker, then he knows truly that he must be either undefeatable or not the true source of the problem. And from his vantage, he can't tell that Lalawithika is trying to heal her. He just sees him clamoring towards her. And all that violence, all that chaos, he keeps the moon shining bright. Grandmother Moon, hear my howl. Oh! And he keeps the moonbeam shining down relentlessly upon both the Wintermaker and Anpaytoo, and begins moving forward, stalking towards them. But now he shifts, he changes, he seems to take on the aspect of the wolf, trying to dart amongst the ice spears and move closer and closer. He's dropped to all fours with one thought in mind, and it is to stop this madness. With tooth, with claw, with fang. So he'll move 40 feet forward and remain concentrating on the moonbeam.
Are you going to move through the ice spears?
He will attempt such.
Ooh. You take 11 damage. That seems to be a common number.
Ow, ow, ouch!
And do roll your concentration check for Moonbeam, having taken that damage.
Will do. 18 on the die. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But the damage. All right, he's hurt. He's ragged, but he is moving on.
Take a suck. You see this happening. You see Wintermaker, his fury, his grief, perhaps, or fear. The emotions are so close to being familiar, but they're still alien on his face. And all the while, perhaps another 20 feet to your right, near the center, the blade of ice stands.
Did Emerald succeed in killing Anpaytoo? Or he was thrown?
You cannot tell if she is dead. She is gravely injured if not.
She would immediately look at the shard. She'd look back at the Wintermaker. It seems as though she doesn't know what to do. But in a quick instant of pure instinct, she runs toward the blade. She is going to attempt to break it.
What are you hitting it with?
Just an axe that she has, that she brandishes it. This was given to her before she left. It's the only weapon that she ever has had. She hasn't even held it really all that much. So she's going to turn it to the blunt end and try and smash it.
The axe shatters in your hand when you strike the ice.
She looks helplessly, pleadingly to the others.
Tahatan.
Tatan is still attempting by whatever means to push forwards to get to Anpaytoo. At some point on this movement, his flint dagger is coming to his hand. Can he make it to Wintersmith?
Yes, you can make it to him.
As he does so, he'll lay a hand upon his shoulder and try and drive the flint blade into his back, twisting it as he does so. If he connects, that is.
The shoulders, cold, hard, like the rock of the cave.
Is a 21?
Oh, that'll hit.
That'll hit. I'd imagine even the handle of the blade, I can feel the cold upon it as I drive it in. But he's going to, in his own mind at least, try and drive some warmth back into the blade, back into the wound, into the Wintermaker. It'll be 9 points of damage.
The blade goes in, sinking deep into the cold skin of Wintermaker. When it comes back out, a trickle of water runs down his back and freezes. La Loética.
looking to the Wintermaker and seeing Anpaytoo in his arms, and that Amaruk having just hacked at her, seeing everything that's happening around him, and seeing Tigasuk shattering her axe on the ice blade. Do I get a sense from what the story that the voices told me was that Anpaytoo had to willingly fall on the ice blade to bring about the eternal winter, correct?
Yes.
Do I get a sense that it's possible to pervert this ritual? Could I do like a religion or arcana or something?
Roll me a religion, and I'll see what you've interpreted.
So +2 to religion. That's a total of 9.
You know so little of what this is. You think that it must be Anpaytoo. That is why the Wintermaker has brought her. That is why he has bewitched her, or whatever it is. The heat from her heart melts the blade, and her blood freezes, and freezes the world.
Unable to get a sense of this ritual, I think I would rely on instinct, which is still, even though I'm standing, I imagine, at the elbow of the Wintermaker, I don't know that my hand has even left her foot, but with my attempt to heal her being thwarted, I'm simply going to channel that and try to simply stabilize her mechanically using the cantrip Spare the Dying, as I'm simply trying to prevent Anpaytoo from crossing over into death.
You feel your words telling her spirit to stay. And it listens. The Wintermaker. Cradling Anpaytoo, her head to his shoulder now. Fingers stroking her hair and leaving behind trails of ice. He looks, and his eyes fall upon Amarok. He cradles Anpaytoo and sweeps a hand across. Amarok, you are encased in ice. It's also now your turn, apparently.
I'll do nothing. Frozen in ice.
You could attempt to break free with athletics. It is a very high DC.
No, I fail.
Kihekita.
How much farther does the wolf have to go through these spears of ice?
I believe you've just made it through them that last turn. So you have... So he moved away from where... this past turn, he's actually moved a little bit away from Amarak on the wall and stepped away from Laloethika. So he is, at this point, about 25 feet from you.
Okay.
He's also out of the moonbeam.
The moonbeam is forgotten now to the wolf brother. He has dashed through these lances of ice, seeking the speed of the wolf to get through them, increasing his movement, trying to dart through, but did not remain untouched. He's hurting now. He's bleeding quite a bit, almost near death. And as he leaps from this forest of ice, he seems to shift again. Was he ever really a wolf? Did it just seem like that? Was it the shadows, the light of the moon playing tricks on everyone? But as he lands, he is yet a man again. And he rushes towards Wintermaker and gets as close as he possibly can. Not touching him. He is not that brave. But he knows this could be the last moment. And he lets out a howl, unlike that he has ever howled before, remembering the great wolves that fled, remembering the dead cousin bear, all the pain he has felt, all this confusion. He is done thinking. Oh! Oh! And it is so loud, it shakes the cave. And mechanically, he's using Thunderwave. Everyone within 15 feet of him must make a con save. DC 13.
All right, that will get Laloethika and Tikasuk, I believe, and I think Tahatan as well. They're all quite close.
All his rage, all his anger, all his confusion, he just lets it out in one ear-shadowing burst.
And what happens to those who fail, including one of your compatriots?
It is the main thing is he's trying to be between the Wintermaker and, if possible, Anpaytoo or the others. He wants to try and keep him on one side, if it is reasonable.
So Wintermaker is holding Anpaytoo.
Then his goal is to just knock them astray. It would be 2d8 thunder damage, but everyone is pushed 10 feet.
Everyone, even those who make it?
Oh, no, that is on a fail. On a successful, it is half damage, no push.
So Wintermaker will use his reaction. And there is a crystalline wall of ice that forms up. It encases his feet and shields him and Anpaytoo. The ice cracks beneath the force of your thunder wave. But it does not reach Wintermaker.
Kita falls to his knees, crestfallen, unsure of what is going on, unsure of even how he did this thing he just did. But perhaps it is dawning on him that he's hurt his friends more than his foes. And now he is on his knees, pounding at the ice with his fists on the cavern floor.
Tikasuk.
She is standing by this blade of ice, and she's looking around at her tribesmen, those who came and were willing, or so she thought, to save Anpaytoo. She looks at their frustration, And then she looks at the blade and she carefully glides her hand so that a thin line of blood coats the tip or along the edge of this blade. And she looks to see if there is anything, to see if she can get any intuition to what she is thinking.
The blood nut does not freeze, but neither does the blade melt.
She is still unsure of what she must do. Is there any reaction from Wintermaker?
You could roll a religion if you would like.
Okay, she'll try that.
Wintermaker is focused on Anpaytoo. He has not really noticed that you're over there. You're not a direct threat to him right now.
All right. That's an 18, actually.
The bits of words, the jumble that came from La Luethica. The heart. The heart will melt the blade, and the river will run and freeze. Anpaytoo's river will freeze.
She holds on to this mountain lion that her father had carved for her. He'd always said that that was not only a great predator, but also skilled in the forest. And she begins to pray a low chant. And I think at this point she is so desperate and she feels the desperation in everyone's actions. And it's overwhelming to her. And she sees this blade and she remembers that it has to be Anpaytoo to fall on it. And so she falls on it.
It is such a delicate looking thing. A sliver of ice. So thin. It slides easily into your chest. There's a moment of pain. It's so cold. The blade pierces your heart, and your blood begins to pour down the altar. The blade slowly melts, unable to withstand the heat. And your blood runs freely. The ice around does not melt, but neither does your blood freeze.
And as her vision begins to blur, she would try and get one last look at Anpaytoo, and just a smile kind of crosses her face. And she begins to cry, but the tears, they don't get a chance to flow because she breathes her last.
The wind which has whipped around the cavern is still. Another terrible silence. And Wintermaker, who had focused solely on Anpaytoo, sees what has happened. No. No! No! His shout shakes the mountain. There's the rumble, the unmistakable sound of an avalanche. He sets Anpaytoo down, gingerly stroking her cheek, leaving the smallest trail of frost. Laloethica, you think you see a tiny breath in her lungs. And that's where we're going to end it.
Poor Jacob. Look at this guy.
Because we're getting a little late. We're pushing that 4-hour mark. Everybody's got stuff to do.
Oh, I lost track of time like an hour ago. Oh my gosh.
So good.
So
I knew as soon as Megan started talking what she was doing. That was so epic.
that was
Awesome.
excellent. So yes, Jake, you did save the world. Well, Tikasuk saved the world. I don't know what the rest of you guys did.
Well,
Oh man.
And those
Silly
dice were
Wolf
all
was
over
trying
the
to
place
break the
tonight.
ice with thunder damage or something. Because you kept describing him as made of ice or something, almost seemed. So I was like, oh, maybe thunder damage will do it. That was the thunder wave. Oh well, that was awesome.
Thank you for a great game. You guys can go ahead and sign out. If you have anything you want to plug, feel free.
Thank you for the awesome game.
Yeah, we'll start with Megan.
Oh.
Tikasuk.
Yes. Hi. Wow, that's awesome. I love that game. That was so much fun. So great. I love this world so far. I think it has so much potential, and the classes that the few that we got to see, I think are very cool, very interesting, and so I can't wait to see what you do with this.
We'll go with Nico.
Thanks for the game, guys, and for running Taylor and letting me in last minute. That was rad. I like the world and the archetypes. Mine, anyone I can speak to, but it was enjoyable, and I liked the skills and abilities that I could use for it. So well done on that, and excellent game. It was always good to play with you guys. Thanks heaps.
Checks.
What can I say? Thank you for the game. Most excellent. Great to be in on the starting run of what is hopefully many more to come of the Second World.
Cameron.
Hint, hint.
Thanks for having me. I'm so sad that Lloyd couldn't make it, but I'm so happy that I got a chance to drop in. I appreciate everyone's amazing role play. It's helping me be a better descriptive person, and so it's great to see all this firsthand. Every once in a while, I catch a game that's recorded, but can't beat the real thing. So appreciate it.
And last but not least, Jake.
I feel like Second World exists in the same dimension on the other side of an orb called some sort of Earth as Iskloft. And these two sides of this globe are two of my favorite for gritty realism and brutality in a harsh world. I mean, like some of the others have said, I know this was I'm honored to have gotten to play with such a tremendous cast of role players, and under you DMing your own setting, Taylor, Second World is absolutely amazing. Between the story you set up and the RP of the players, I was completely and totally immersed in this kind of Native American inspired setting. And it's phenomenal. I love the archetypes. I love the way they play off of what we know in 5th edition, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do as you put more time, as you learn from doing more and more of these. So the only thing I'm going to plug is I'm going to say get yourself in the Absolute Tabletop official group so you can have a chance to play in Second World games. This was absolutely awesome. Thank you to everybody, and especially Taylor.
Well, I'm so glad that we got to have the first playtest of Second World. You guys were a stellar group, and there will be more to come. Thanks lots.